So now we start attaching the lower limbs to the pelvis, and the center of this attachment is an acetabulum which has got an articular surface, and a non-articular surface. Then this is also bounded by the cartilage, and it has a fovea which is called as the fovea capitis. Then you have the transverse acetabular ligament here. You would remember that I had told you that the acetabulum is notched in the inferior part, and this transverse acetabular ligament leaves an area through which the artery can enter, and you see this is the ligamentum teres, and if you see it in this view, this is the ligamentum teres. Here is the obturator foramen. In this obturator foramen is running the obturator artery, and this gives an artery of ligamentum teres which passes through this notch and comes and supplies the head of the femur. We told you that there is a growth plate and there is an arterial arcade coming from the profunda femoris. This is the femoral. This is the profunda femoris. So this is an arterial arcade of the lateral and the medial circumflex femoral, which forms at the base of the lesser trochanter. From it arises another arcade of the anterior ascending and the posterior ascending, which forms an arterial arcade at the base of the neck. From these arise the anterior and posterior retinacular vessels, which are extraosseous, and therefore they are not stopped by the growth plate. So we told you that when the synovium circles the neck, the visceral layer, and there is a synovium which lies the capsule. So there is a cavity of the synovium, and when this cavity of the synovium fills with too much of fluid in a rigid capsule, there is increase in pressure in the synovial cavity that obliterates these vessels and causes avascular necrosis of the head, and the head initially becomes sclerosed and stops growing, so it becomes small and sclerosed. Then it fragments, and then bone forms around it, so it starts reossifying, and this gives you the head in head sign. And this is the pathogenesis of Perthes disease. Very important from the orthopedic point of view. Now we draw the capsule here connecting the acetabulum and strengthen it by a ligament. So capsule is attached to the intertrochanteric line on the femur, and a Y-shaped ligament of Bigelow comes from the anterophilic spine, strengthening the capsule from anteriorly. Then there is the ischiofemoral ligament which strengthens the capsule from behind, and a pubofemoral ligament that strengthens the capsule from in front. So all the three bones contribute to strengthening of the capsule. Now this intertrochanteric line joining the two trochanters, the upper end of femur consists of a head, a neck, and two trochanters, the greater trochanter and the lesser trochanter. So this intertrochanteric line spirals around like this, and there is a subtrochanteric line which spirals around like this, forming the lateral and the medial spiral line, and they form on the posterior surface of the femur the medial and lateral lips of linea aspera. As soon as you understood this basic structure, it becomes easy for you to say that the hip is a triaxial joint. So there is a side to side axis on which there will be flexion and extension. Then there will be a supero-inferior axis on which there will be external rotation and internal rotation. And then there will be a antero-posterior axis on which there will be an abduction and adduction. So we'll make it a little bit neck and the lesser trochanter also, then the neck and the greater trochanter. So this forms the upper end of femur. So any muscle that arises from the anterior side of the pelvis and comes and gets attached on the anterior side would flex the hip. Anything that arises from the outer side and gets attached on the lateral side will abduct it. Anything that arises from the medial side of the pelvis and gets attached will adduct it. And anything behind will extend it. So let us place first the muscles that will flex the hip. And therefore, before that, we must place the inguinal ligament below which all these muscles would come, and we must also place the spine. So arising from the spine and attached to the lesser trochanter is the muscle which is the psoas major. It's passing under the inguinal ligament. Alright. And this psoas major is supported by the iliacus. Then there is another muscle which arises from the pectineal eminence and supports it like this. This muscle is the pectineus. So psoas major is the major flexor of the hip. Alright. So amongst the flexors, first let us write the name of psoas and iliacus. Then there is the sartorius, which arises from the anterior sphenic spine, spirals round the femur and gets attached as sardar, girl between two sardars. So gracilis in the middle, coming from here, and semi-tendinosus from the ischial tuberosity. So one sardar is girl between two sardars, one sardar is sartorius, the other sardar is gracilis, the girl is gracilis, the third is semi-tendinosus. So they are attached to the tibia. They are coming from the three compartments. Sartorius is coming from the flexor compartment, gracilis is coming from the adductor compartment, and semi-tendinosus from the extensor compartment. And all are attached to the same place. So they are also called as ambassador muscles. So sartorius, iliacus, psoas and pectineus are the major flexors of the hip. Besides this, the abductor also, the outer surface also contributes a flexor, and that is the gluteus minimus, the gluteus minimus. So we list them: iliacus, psoas, sartorius, pectineus, and gluteus minimus. So these are the flexors of the hip, and this is in short their origin and insertion. Now on the other side, we'll again make the intertrochanteric line, and then we spiral it to form the linea aspera, and the subtrochanteric line, and we spiral it to form the linea aspera. And now we start attaching the adductors. So now there are 3 adductors above and 3 adductors below. The 3 adductors above are this. I will put the capsule here. And then I will make a muscle which arises from the obturator foramen, passes under the neck, and gets inserted onto the greater trochanter. This is obturator externus. And this muscle is sandwiched between the pectineus in front and the quadratus femoris behind. So obturator externus sandwiched between pectineus and quadratus femoris are the 3 superior adductors. Then the adductors are arising from the istiopubic ramus and the pubis and getting inserted into this linea aspera, the posteriormost being the adductor magnus. Then you have another one which is adductor brevis, which is a little bit shorter. And finally you have the third one, which is the adductor longus, anteriormost. So the 3 muscle adductors below are adductor magnus, brevis, and longus. So this finishes off the adductors. Then the abductors and the extensors. So we repeat the diagram from outside. This is the iliac crest, the posterior suprailiac spine, the posterior inferior iliac spine, the greater sciatic notch, the ischial spine, the ischial tuberosity, the anterior suprailiac spine, the anterior iliac spine, the pectineal eminence, the artery vein notch, the pubic tubercle, the pubic crest, the pubic symphysis. Then we place the obturator foramen. Then we place the acetabulum. Then we place the sacrum and the spine above, like this. Then we place the transverse acetabular ligament, the obturator foramen, the sacrotuberous ligament, the sacrospinous ligament. You see, as you draw, you tend to learn or revise a lot. That's the advantage of drawing. So in this we will place the head and this head will be coming outside like this as the neck, and then it will become the trochanter, and it will go as the shaft of femur. I have made the femur red. And if we want to place the abductors, there will be 3 lips of the iliac crest: the outer, the intermediate, the inner. The outer lip will have a iliac tuberosity here. So there are basically only 2 abductors. One, which is the gluteus medius, will get attached to the tip. This is the gluteus medius, arising from the middle and getting attached to the tip. This is the gluteus medius. And the other is the tensor fascia lata. The tensor fascia lata would arise from the iliac tuberosity, convert into a band which is called as the iliotibial band, and will go and get inserted into the head of the fibula. In between, it will get inserted on the linea aspera through a septum, which is the lateral intermuscular septum. So to visualize this, if you see the femur like this in section, the lateral and the medial lips, and if you see the deep fascia like this around it, then on the lateral side is the iliotibial band, and it's connected to the lateral lip by the lateral intermuscular septum. On the medial lip you have this here. So this is the iliotibial band, and these are the 2 abductors of hip. Now we proceed to show you the extensors. So we make the pelvis from behind. You can see this much only: the posterior suprailiac spine, the posterior inferior iliac spine, the greater sciatic notch, the ischial spine, the ischial tuberosity, and we see the acetabulum. Then in the acetabulum we place the head, the neck, and the trochanter as seen from behind, the lesser tuber trochanter as we see it from behind. So I told you that here we will place the sacrum, and we will place the sacrotuberous ligament, the sacrospinous ligament, and we place the a muscle which arises out of the obturator externus muscle. So first we place the capsule, which leaves out the outer third of neck. Then we strengthen the capsule by the ischiofemoral ligament. Then we place a muscle coming from the obturator foramen, obturator externus, passing below the neck and getting inserted into the trochanteric fossa here. Then we place above this from top to bottom. So first we place the piriformis getting inserted on the tip. And then we place the obturator internus tendon emerging like this, and this obturator internus tendon Obturator internus is basically a muscle. It's converted into a tendon. It's supported by the superior and the inferior gemellus. And finally, we place the quadratus femoris. Alright, above this, we place the gluteus medius. Anterior to it, you will find the gluteus minimus. And now, arising from the posterior part of the iliac crest, from the sacrotuberous ligament, is a huge muscle which is the gluteus maximus, which goes and gets inserted into the gluteal tuberosity here and into the fibers of the iliotibial band. It also gets inserted into fibers of iliotibial band. The last, below the quadratus femoris, you would find the adductor magnus coming and getting inserted into the linea aspera right up to the adductor tubercle. So, this is the posterior view, and this simply tells you that the first thing that you will encounter is the gluteus maximus, the superficial most. Then you will encounter the piriformis, the superior gemellus, the obturator internus, and the inferior gemellus. So let us name them. First you will encounter the gluteus maximus. Then you will encounter the piriformis in line. Piriformis, superior gemellus, inferior gemellus, obturator internus in between, quadratus femoris, adductor magnus. Finally, before you reach the capsule, you will encounter the obturator externus, and then you will be able to divide the capsule and you will be able to approach the head and the neck. This is so important because that's the posterior approach of the hip, which is also called as the Austin-Moore approach. You can revise the structures passing through the greater sciatic notch. Piriformis, above the piriformis, superior gluteal artery vein and nerve. Below the piriformis, inferior gluteal artery vein and nerve, 3 nerves and pin structures. The 3 nerves are sciatic, posterior nerve of thigh, nerve to quadratus femoris, and the pin structures are pudendal nerve, internal pudendal artery, and nerve to obturator internus. I am sorry, this is rote learning, but you will have to learn it to be able to state it as smoothly as I am stating. So, we have finished the extensors, we finished the flexors, we finished the adductors, and we finished the abductors of hip, and that these are the muscles that move the hip, which is a ball and socket joint, and therefore the ball has 3 axes, antero-posterior, in which there is abduction and adduction, a supero-inferior on which there is internal and external rotation, and a side to side on which there is flexion and extension. Last important thing that I want to tell you is that if you see the femur, here is the head, neck, shaft, and the lower condyle. The medial condyle has an adductor tubercle here. So normally the axis of rotation passes from here to the adductor tubercle, the center of the head to the adductor tubercle, and the iliopsoas muscle is inserted in front of this axis. So basically ileosaurs always internally rotates around this axis. So this moves like a gate around this axis. But supposing there is a fracture neck of femur, then this axis would become the axis of the shaft, and since the ileosaurs is now inserted behind the axis, it will start externally rotating. So when the lever arm is lost, when the axis moves to the shaft of femur, ileosaurs is an external rotator. Ileosaurs is an external rotator. But if the neck is intact, ileosaurs is an internal rotator. So this is a very important question that can be asked to you in the exam. And if you can answer this correctly, you are likely to score very high marks. Thank you.